This is Hell's Mouth Beach on the Llyn Peninsula, looking out across Cardigan Bay and on to the Irish Sea, and one of the most spectacular beaches in North Wales, although it has lots of competition. There's no seaside town, no arcades, not many tourists, although on this sunny and abnormally warm March day, it's a hot spot for surfers and kayakers. But pollution is everywhere, although almost invisible. Washed up with each wave, microplastics. There are recognizable plastics, in this case builders' waste like raw plugs and tech screw caps, perhaps from illegal dumping, but the real tiny waste are NURDLES, plastic spheres, a toxic waste many people have never heard of. NURDLES are raw material plastics, pellets that get molded into bottles or phones or gadgets. They are often mistaken for food by seabirds and fish and other wildlife. In the environment, they fragment into nanoparticles, whose hazards are more complex. By weight, they are the second largest source of micropollutants in the ocean after tire dust. Around 230,000 tons of NURDLES end up in the ocean every year. Of that, 38,000 tons ends up in European waters, and that's an estimated 53 billion pellets in British waters every year. The tiny beads can be made of polythene or polypropylene or polystyrene or PVC and other plastics, released into the environment from plastic plants or when shipped around the world as a raw material to factories. They can sink or float depending on their density and if they're in fresh or salt water. Like crude oil, NURDLES are highly persistent pollutants and will continue to circulate in ocean currents and wash ashore for decades. They are also toxic sponges. They attract chemical toxins and other pollutants such as E. coli bacteria onto their surfaces. Despite being toxic to marine life, they're not actually considered hazardous under the International Maritime Organization, the global lawmakers that sees them as inert plastic pollution. Back in 2020, a broken container on the cargo ship MV Transcarrier lost 10 tons of these pellets in the North Sea, dumping the plastics on Scandinavian beaches. Another loss was reported in South African waters of 50 tons. But the worst was in 2020 when the container ship Express Pearl off the coast of Sri Lanka caught fire and sunk, dumping not only 350 tons of fuel oil, but nearly 1,700 tons of NURDLES. The disaster killing at least 470 turtles, 46 dolphins and 8 whales who had NURDLES inside of them, as well as millions of fish. The disaster massively affected people's lives in fishing in Sri Lanka. These are the headline incidents. Even inland, a minor spillage will result in them being washed into drains and eventually making their way to rivers and onto the seas, and back onto the beaches and into marine animals. So, what's the fix? The solution is to treat this raw material in the same way oil products are treated. Regulation, to avoid spillages during transport and storage, and strict rules on cleaning up spillages, and that would include bags split in a plastic plant or even recycling plant. After the Express Pearl disaster, the Sri Lankan government petitioned the International Maritime Organization to reclassify NURDLES as toxic. This would ensure they would be better stored and below decks to avoid spillages. Sadly, the issue was kicked down the road and has yet to be decided. Their size and the fact they break down into even smaller microplastics makes clean-up operations impractical for anything less than they're made to spill. They must be carefully managed at source. If you want to get involved, report findings and upload photos, then you can go to nurdlehunt.org. There's a link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video informative.